Well, let's start off first off by why don't you tell us who you are?
Full name.
Yeah.
Rank and serial number.
Oh, now this is kind of silly, guys.
Just your
Just
full
give us
name.
give us your name.
Yeah, Hurley Stahl,
Okay.
What's your middle name?
Loray,
Lorray. And you spell it how?
Loray.
Okay.
First thing that I would like to know, have you just tell us a little bit about, and that would be, first off, do you remember your grandparents? Or who's the, what's the relation that you remember from the furthest back? Do you remember your great-grandparents?
I don't remember too much about I do my great grandmother.
Your great-grandmother?
Yeah,
What was her name?
I never. That was we always called her Old Omi Barons, and I'm not sure just what her real name was, because all I ever knew her by when I was little was Old Omi.
Okay. And she
And
was...
Omi, and I think that's grandma in German. Something that's why that's where the Omi comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, was she... So that would be on your dad's...
That was my dad's mother's mother.
Dad's mother's mother.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember anything about her?
No, not a whole lot. She was pretty old already when I first, ever got acquainted with her, and she was usually sitting in the house in a chair with like the old clothes like they used to wear, and a lot of times a kind of a bonnet thing on.
Bonnet. Okay.
But
What was her name?
Well, that's easy.
Full.
yeah, I tell you, I got to stop and think on that a little bit, whether it was. Oh, I tell you.
It was Omi Barons, but they don't know. Old.
See, that's all I ever knew her by was. Maybe sometime later on it'll come to me what her name was, but all I really, it was just always Old Omi to everybody.
So did she speak German a lot, or?
Yeah, yeah, they talked German a lot, and my granddad and grandmother spoke German a lot.
On your father's side?
Yeah, that's on the father's side. And on my mother's side, I didn't hardly even get to know my granddad there, because he died when I was 7 years old. Like, I remember seeing him a couple times, but that was it. But,
Old Omi Barons, was she born in America, or did she come over from...
no, I think, well, wait. See, I would imagine she might have come over from Germany too. Well, I'm not sure, but see, my granddad, he was 7 years old when he come over from Germany, him and his family.
Okay.
And
Your granddad, you mean...
my granddad Stahl
Okay.
was
So-
7 years old when they came by boat from Germany.
Do you remember your dad or anybody ever telling any stories about them coming over from...
Like why he came over, who he came
Well,
with?
life was really tough in Germany at that time. And slowly, a few more of their relatives was coming over here to where they finally had, quite a little relation here, which was painting a pretty good picture of the life here compared to there. So then they come over, and they were met. They didn't have hardly any money at all. Nobody did in them days. And I know I can remember them talking about they walked a long ways after they got here to where they met up with the first friends or relatives, And then they kind of went from there and moved through the country that way. And
Do you have an idea of approximately what year this would
Well,
have
if
been?
you were 7,
No.
he was 7.
my granddad was 7.
Do you know
Great
about
name.
when your grandpa was born? When were your parents born?
No, I'd have to stop and think that all out too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, my dad, he would have been born in 1902,
Right, because Tina was born in 1900.
1900, and she's 2 years older than
Okay.
Dad.
And so,
And I did really have to stop and think things out on that. For what Mom was, what year she was.
Or probably, let's see.
I'm not sure right now, you know,
So
I
probably
can't even
18
remember right now just how many years there was difference in their age.
1870s, 1880s, approximately. Would you think
For the great, or for the grandparents?
for
you
when
mean?
they came?
Well, for when my grandparents came over,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can see. There's the thing now. There's someplace around. We've got some letters
Hmm.
that had been
Really?
that my granddad had wrote back to Germany, or somebody from Germany had wrote to him. Now I'm not sure. That might have been in some of Tina's stuff that some of the other kids might have got.
Okay. We'll have to see if we can find that so we can videotape it.
Mhm.
I know it was a long, slow old cruise across the ocean, and you know, on the boats they had in them days.
Mhm.
And
There's some stories about when they got over here. Some of them had red hair. Was that? And they got in a fight or something when they first landed. They landed in New York, wasn't it?
yeah, I'm not sure where they landed.
I'll have to study up on that a little bit. Well, what do you remember about your grandparents? And
Well, they were farmers, and
this is Grandma and Grandpa Stahl.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and when they moved up this way from they was first in Grundy County, somewhere in Grundy County, and then they moved up by Hartley. Well, there was about 8 or 10 miles out of Hartley, because I know it was quite a trip for them to go in, you know, for groceries. They wouldn't go very often, but it was with the team and wagon. There was no cars in. They didn't have no cars.
Mhm.
And that's the way they, it was quite a trip. I mean, it was a day's thing just to go into town to get some groceries.
Mhm.
And I always remember my dad telling about the first time him and my Aunt Tina went to town with my grandpa, and they were scared, and they got in town and they sat down in the wagon so people couldn't see them, and then every once in a while they would peek out over the top. You know, some completely new to them. See, they just never been in towns. They didn't know what it was. And it's hard to believe, you know, that life was like that. But there was a lot of, a good share of the farming was done yet when I was a kid with horses. And I can still see my granddad out there dragging fields, you know, walking behind the drag, driving the horses. Yeah, all day out there and walk back and forth across the field.
Did you ever do anything with them besides just field work and this and that? Or, I mean, did you get together on a regular basis when you were a little boy for
Well,
dinners or
I used to always go out there. One thing was a big part of my life in the summertime during school vacation when it'd come to thrashing time. And I'd go out there on a farm, and you'd see that thrash machine coming down the road, and hay racks and farmers from all directions to start loading bundles early in the morning. And boy, that was a big time, and that was, you know, boy, that was big machinery to us then.
well, it still is.
Yeah, it don't amount to much now anymore for what it was then. And everything was done with horses, you know, everything was horsepower. And wintertime they had big bobsleds, you know, they'd hook the horses on, with runners on, instead of wheels, you know, to slide over the snow.
Now your okay, so let's go back quick to your dad's dad, your grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
was who?
That was John Stahl.
John Stahl.
Mm-hmm.
And you called him Opie.
Yeah.
He was Opie.
Mm-hmm.
And your grandmother, your dad's mother, was
Mary,
Mary Behrens.
and we called her Omi.
Omi.
And how do you spell Barons?
Behrens.
Uh-huh.
Behrends?
I believe it's Behrends.
Right.
Okay.
But that's where the old Omi and Omi come in. You know, my grandmother would call Omi, and then her mother, that was
Old Omi.
old Omi.
Right.
But my grandfather, or great grandfather Barons, I don't remember him at all.
Well, Opie and Omi, do you know where they were born? Any idea?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, now,
Well, Grandpa was. Your
see,
grandpa
he was born in Germany someplace, but I don't
Mhm.
remember just what
Mhm.
town it was. I'm sure we could find it somewhere. We've got, some literature on that.
Okay.
Tina was really good on that. I tell you, she had a memory till no end. She just remembered dates of whenever anything happened, when it was,
You know, she
and
was
people.
incredible.
She had a terrific memory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where Mary Behrens was born?
Mm-mm.
What country was she born in America? Or born
No, see, now I don't know whether she was born in Germany too, or
Okay.
whether she was here already. See, she could have been here because my granddad was only 7 when they came. I mean, she could have already been here.
Mm-hmm.
So this I don't know.
Do you know where they're buried?
Yeah, they're buried here in the Ocheyedan Township Cemetery.
Yeah, Mary
Both of
Behrens.
them are?
Now you're talking about
Opie and Omi.
Opie and Omi, yeah.
Right.
And then my great grandfather Barons and old Omi Barons, they're buried in that cemetery by May City.
Right. Okay. On
And
Okay.
and we're still just talking on my dad's side.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's where they're at.
And then on your mom's side, your mom was a McDonald.
Yeah.
And what were her parents' names?
Well, Maud was her mother's name, and she had been a Miller. Was Maud Miller. And and my mother's dad's name, he was Ray McDonald. And see, like I say, I was only 7 years old when he died,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know him too well. But he'd got hurt he'd hit a train or something with a car, and whether this had something to do with his death or not, I'm not sure. He wasn't killed right at the time, but I mean, he might have had some injuries that
Mm-hmm.
later, is what caused his death. But he's buried in Slayton,
Slayton.
north of Slayton, in a cemetery north of Slayton.
Okay.
And
And Maud?
and Maud, she's buried in Sibley.
Hmm.
See, they separated. They were separated at, I don't know what age or anything, but
Okay. And do you remember any stories of the McDonald side at all?
well,
They're Scottish. Or Scotch.
and he was a butcher. Is what most of his life was spent, for work. He butchered. And
Where at? Do you know where he had a butcher shop?
no.
Well,
Now they lived down around Sheldon for quite a few years, and that's where my mother was born. I believe down at Sheldon or by Hartley, one of the two.
okay, so your mother, who was Maxine McDonald,
Yeah,
was born in around Sheldon.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Sheldon. And
Okay. And your dad was born. Your dad was Fred Stahl,
yeah,
and he was born.
well, I don't know
Do you know middle names?
whether he was born at in Grundy County, I think is where he was born. I think him and Tina.
And in their family, there was. What were the siblings' names?
Well, there was my dad, Fred, and Tina.
Tina was the oldest.
Tina was the oldest. Then my dad, Fred, and then Jesse.
No, Johnny. Oh yeah,
and then
Jesse.
Johnny.
That's right. Johnny was younger than Jesse.
Yeah. Now the only one of them living anymore is Jessie, and she just celebrated her 90th birthday last summer.
That's right.
Do you know your dad's middle name?
George.
George?
And your mom, Maxine
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Okay. And your
Now she, I tell you, the McDonald side of my family was really musical. They was all into music. They all loved music. All the girls played music. And my mother was, in fact, really. She started playing in Hartley in the time of the silent movies. She was playing piano at the age of 13 in there for silent movies.
who is this? Your mother?
That's my mother, yeah. Yeah, I tell you, all them kids could play. And her mother and her dad both played.
Do you know what they played?
And, well, I think somebody told me once that my granddad played violin. And
On the McDonald side.
my grandmother played piano, and she taught all the girls to play piano.
Okay.
And I heard a lot of stories about how tough she was on them on piano. I mean, when their piano lesson time was there, that's what they was doing, and they didn't do anything else until they were done practicing. You know, she really pounded it into them. But then Marion, my mother's sister, she lived at Slayton, married Herman Okerman, but she just died here this past month.
Mm-hmm.
But she had played the organ in the church there at Slayton for, gosh, I think it was 42 or 46 years.
Do you know which church it was?
Oh, golly, what was that? I believe it was a Lutheran, but I'm not sure which.
Okay.
In fact, if I'd look around enough, I could probably find out what that is, but that.
What was her last name, her married name?
Okerman was the.
She married Okerman, Herman Okerman.
Okerman.
I think it's Okerman.
And then how did your mom and dad meet?
How did they meet?
Right.
Well, my mother worked in a music store. I believe it was in Sheldon. And my dad was come in there to try out. He was wanting to buy a saxophone. And he got in there, and they had some to sell, and he was going to try it out. Well, she said she would play the piano, you know, if he'd want to play saxophone to that. And they started playing in there, and that's where they met, and that kind of is what brought them together, was their music. He played saxophone, she played piano, and then they were soon, you know, playing with a band for dances and stuff. And they were kept pretty busy playing
For dances.
Mhm.
Barn dances.
Oh yeah, barn dances, and I can remember when I was a little tyke, they'd take me along and be even just a house dance. I mean, out some big house out in the country, you know, they'd take all the furniture out of a room and have a high old time.
Hmm.
Yeah, quite a changing world.
Did they play like in the town hall here in Ocheyedan?
Oh yeah, they played here a lot, but they before the town hall was built, they had what they called the old Boyd building. It was one time it was an undertaking parlor, and then a furniture store, and then after that kind of went out of business, the whole downstairs they used that for a town dance hall.
Huh.
And they didn't have a piano right in the dance hall there, and my mother had her piano. And they run a cream station in town, cream and eggs and hides or whatever, you know. Because at that time, farmers, everybody had a few chickens and a few cows, and they'd come in on Saturday and Wednesday night and to sell their eggs and a little pail of cream, and then that's what they bought groceries with. But anyway, then on these dance nights, they would get a bunch of guys together and they'd go up to my folks' cream station, which was about a half a block up from the old Boyd building from the dance hall, and carry that piano out and roll it down the sidewalk and and it would still stay in tune pretty good. It was a good old piano.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can still see him doing that.
We'll have to find some of the tapes. And we've got tapes of Grandma playing
Mm-hmm.
organ that we'll have to find.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they owned a cream station here in town.
Yeah.
What building was that?
Well, it's hard for me to tell you just which building. It's that little block building that's right there by where Butch Falk had built that locker building.
Uh-huh.
It's the building right north of there.
Now, I recall you saying that you had lived in that building?
Yeah, we lived in the back part of it.
Okay.
And while we were in there, that's when my brother Ronnie was born.
Where was he?
In the old hospital, which is still here in town.
Which was Iselt's?
Yeah. I mean, that's where ISELT was, but at the time ISELT wasn't in there.
Right.
This was way before ISELT's time.
Uh-huh.
I think it was Doc Padgett. It was doctor, I think, in the hospital.
Now, were you born in Sibley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sibley.
At the hospital?
No, in a house,
Okay.
in a home, right at home.
Were
Was
they
there-
living in Sibley at the time?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what they did in Sibley?
Well, no, not really. My dad did farm work for different people, you know, farmhand. And they played for dances
And then they moved into town.
And see, I don't remember anything myself until they was living in Ocheyedan, and we lived in a little house down across from the park.
Okay.
And that's the first that I can remember being here.
North of the park.
Yeah, right across the street north of the park there was a little house there, and we lived there.
We can go tape them sometime.
And
About your birth, was there like a doctor present or a nurse or
well, I think there was a doctor. I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
really don't know for sure.
were there any complications when you were born? Do you remember hearing any stories about your birth or
No.
anything? No?
Well, when were you born?
What?
What's your birthday? When were you born?
1931, July 21st. And
And then your family consisted of you and two brothers,
yeah, Ronnie and Bill.
Ronnie and Bill. And Ronnie was born in Ocheyedan. Do you remember which year? When?
Well, he's 7 years younger than me, so it'd be 38.
38.
Okay.
Okay.
And Bill is, I think, 10 years younger than me, maybe not. I don't know if he's born in 40 or 41, something like that. I'm not sure. It'd be somewhere in there.
Okay.
Were there any other siblings that your mom had lost or anything? No.
Now getting to you then in life in Ocheyedan. Tell us a little bit about what you remember of Ocheyedan back then, what the town was like.
Oh, I tell you, there's no comparison to what it is now for what it was then. Little towns in them days was busy towns. On Wednesdays and Saturday nights, you could hardly walk down the sidewalk without having to zigzag through people. And cars, a lot of farmers had their own place that they usually parked, and they didn't like it too well if they'd get on Wednesday or Saturday night and somebody else had their parking place. I mean, it was just a thing. Everybody knew where they parked. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4 grocery stores. And on Wednesday nights they had a big bandwagon that was pulled up on Main Street, and the town band would play. And they had popcorn stands on the corners, and it was just really a busy, bustling place. You can't believe it. And you never know, it was the same old town now. Had 2 banks.
What year was the big fire in that?
That was in 56.
56.
55 or 56.
Were you in Ocheyedan then, or were you?
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah, I was working for Osterman's then already, and I wonder if it was 55. See, I started work for Gus Osterman and Sons in 1955, and but before that, I worked on the railroad for about 4 years, and that's where I was working when I and your mother got married.
What are all the jobs that you've worked at, starting when you were a kid?
Well, some of the first jobs was I'd just help driving tractors and stuff, when tractors was just starting to come in, you know, for making hay and this and that. You know, I'd go out to my grandparents, you know, and that's where I'd help with them making hay, and then I worked in the gas station for a while,
Where at?
and in town, you know, Ocheyedan, and a blacksmith shop. And that's where I learned welding and everything in that blacksmith shop.
How long did you work at those places?
Oh, I was about a year probably is about all there.
Each?
And then I went into working on building construction. I worked on, attended bricklayers on a school when they built a school at Worthington.
About
And-
what year was that, or how old were you?
Oh golly, let's see. It would have been 17 probably. I know when I started to work on over at Sibley on the light plant, they was building a new light plant at Sibley, and you were supposed to be 16 to work there, but I started there when I was just 15. I told them I was 16, but I started working out when I was 15. And then I worked on a couple construction sites, you know, building construction, worked on that.
And you helped build the elevator here in town?
Yeah, I worked on the elevator they built here in town.
Which one?
The one right by Main Street,
The white one?
that big concrete one.
The big concrete white.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then I worked about 4 years on the railroad, and that's when I got married then, and the crew I was working on worked from Ocheyedan to Sioux Falls, and then we'd spend the winter months working in Sioux Falls because there was more yards work up there. And we had bunk cars, regular railroad bunk cars to live in. And I got married and got your mother up there in Sioux Falls, and I thought, boy, that's no place for her to be living down in them rail yards, you know. So that's when I went looking for a different job, watching the papers, and then I seen where a fellow wanted farm help. Tony Sasman was his name, north of Round Lake. And so I called him, and he said, well, give him a try, you know. I said I'd done a little farm work, but I was sure there was a lot to learn yet, but I was willing to try, you know. And I told him, I said, I'll come out if you want. I said, I'll come out and work for you for a couple of weeks. And if you think then that I can handle it, and if I think I want it, why, then we could consider moving out there, you know. But I didn't want to, you know, just up and move out and not knowing what it was going to be. But he was something else to work for. You just couldn't satisfy that man. He'd work you day and night if you could go. I mean, it was just, and I should have knew more when I was just there a little while, and the guy come to fill a gas tank, big gas barrel out there, and he says, how's Tony to work for? And I said, well, I haven't been here very long, but he doesn't seem too awful bad. Well, I said, I was kind of wondering. He says, because every time I come out here to fill that gas tank, he's got a new hired man. And uh-oh. And that's what it was too. You just couldn't. He just worked you to death.
How long did you last out there?
I just stayed there 1 year. And then I gave him 2 weeks notice in the spring that I had another job right here at Ocheyedan working for Ray Hormel, right on the edge of town here in Ocheyedan.
As a
So
farmhand?
I went to work, that was in 1952. And went to work for Ray Hormel, and that's when Bonnie was born. And first we lived across the street from the farm where we worked, and then we moved over in a little house. And that's where Dave was born in 55. Wait, Bonnie was born in 53, it would have been. Yeah, and Dave in 55. We lived in that little house at Hormel's then. And I worked there, I think, let's see, I was working for Osterman's though when Dave was born, but I just had started for Osterman. So I worked from 52 up until the spring of 55 for Ray Hormel, and then he got a sickness in the hogs, and that was one of his big incomes was hog business there. And they started losing hogs until he finally just couldn't keep a hired man anymore, you know. But he said he'd keep me on until I could find a different job, and that's when I went to work for Osterman. In April of 1955, I went to work for Osterman, and then I worked with them till 90. I worked for them for a while yet in 93. In the spring of 93 is when the company shut down. That's when I went on retirement.
Well, let's back way up here, back into your childhood again, and talk about some of the things that you did as a kid. I know you hung around with a lot of different guys in town. What were some of the boys at the time that you would play with, and what would you do?
Oh, we do all kinds of stuff. We could have fun with anything. In them days, in the gas stations, for one thing, had quart cans of oil that they put in cars. When cars needed oil, it would come in a 10-quart can. And we found that if you'd stomp on the center of them quart cans, the can would wrap up around your foot, and they'd stay clamped on your shoes. And so then we all thought we sounded like horses running around. And we'd wear cans around half a day on our feet, you know, just clattering, clicking and clattering. Dumb thing like that. And would roll tires. We all had tires that was really our special tire. You hang on to that, you know, and during the day that's what we'd do, is we'd all go together and just roll tires around the country.
Like bicycle tires?
No,
or
car tires.
They,
Just old car tires that was wore out. Yeah,
Well, now there used to be a big grove right here
yeah.
on the east side of town, actually right across the street from where we're
Yeah,
living right
yeah,
now.
we used to play in there a lot, play tag.
Play tag,
Yeah, and
climb the trees, and
one of the rules was you couldn't touch the ground. So whatever you did, you had to go from one tree to another somehow. And if you did touch the ground, then you were automatically you would have to start trying to catch the other guys. And then there was one time I got an old horse buggy, an old steel wheel, them big wheels, and I took the shafts off that hook up to a horse, you know, and I tied a rope around each end of the axle. And then a bunch of us kids would push that around town. Well, then we got a little braver, and we'd go out here on the top of the hill here on Main Street, and we'd give that thing a good push, and down that hill we'd go, you know, just the old wheels just singing. And we did that several times. Now, you couldn't have even get by it today. If you try and do that today, they'd have you in jail. But everybody just, you know, a lot of people wouldn't even pay no attention to it or just laugh. It was just a different life in them days. But it didn't go so good the day we hit the tracks down there, and the buggy jumped up in the air and come down with the wheels cocked to one side, and I couldn't straighten it out again, and we ran right into the depot. And the hub on the buggy went right through the deep side of the depot, right through the boards. And there was a guy sitting in there. There was a big waiting room, And I could still see him through the window there. And when we hit that, he just took off out of that seat. Yeah.
When you used to go out to Rush Lake,
Oh yeah, we walked wherever. We never had cars or stuff to go. Anything we wanted to do, we had to walk to. We'd go out there day after day, walk clear out to Rush Lake, and play all day. And in the wintertime, we'd skate out there from the creek here on the edge of town, skate clear out there, and then skate all day, and then skate home. And we'd walk out to the Ocheyedan Creek, go fishing, and sometimes a couple times a day. And we didn't have no regular fishing poles. We just had a stick and a piece of string with a hook on it and an old bolt for a sinker and a little chunk of wood for a bobber. And we'd make a stringer out of a willow twig. We'd cut off a willow twig that had a little hook on the bottom, and then hook the fish on there. And there was usually small bullheads we'd catch, and I remember we'd carry them clear to town. By the time we'd get to town, they'd be so dried out and curled out, Yeah.
well, when you went out to Rush Lake, at one point, did you get a boat or build a boat?
No, there's a couple boats had been abandoned out there. They weren't too good of boats anymore, and there used to be see a lot of duck hunters out there. That was just in duck season. It sounded like war out there. And a couple boats guys had just left there, and we kind of patched them up and put them into use, and we just made oars out of some boards, cut out our own oars, and we called it the Rush Lake Navy. We had Rush Lake Navy. We just cruised all over that. One year we hit it out there, the turtles were so thick, little turtles. And we started going on them, they'd be on the muskrat houses and then on rushes that was laying out there in the water. And we started catching turtles, and we didn't realize the more turtles we was putting in the boat, that old boat was getting lower in the water, until all once we realized this water was just starting to slop over that boat. And then I remember we had to start casting turtles out to get back to shore. Can you believe that many darn little turtles that we could have sunk the boat with it?
It's pretty amazing.
Who were the kids that you'd hang out with?
Oh golly, there was the Nice Wonder kids and Mickelsons and Dimer. Oh, I tell you, there was a lot of. It was kind of funny, that kids would move into town and move out. You'd be friends for a while, and then somebody else would move in, and then for a while you'd be chumming with this bunch, and then for some reason all once you'd be chumming around with some others. And
Now some of them are still in town, like the Nice Wonders. Was it Dave and Deed that you ran around with, or just
well, they were younger, so I run around mostly with Chuck.
Chuck?
Yeah, and let's see, there was 6 boys in that family and 2 girls. 6 boys. Anyway, Dave is the only one left. 3 of them died in the same year. 3, 4. Yeah, there was 6. Bill was the oldest. He died years ago. He was killed out in Chicago. And Red died in the Air Force or Army. He was stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. And then Dee died, and Chuck died, and Keith died. Dave is the only one left in town now, and he's in bad shape.
And Dave is?
Yeah, he's in real bad shape.
One of the things, and I think the Nice Wonders might have been involved with it too, and I don't remember quite. You said there was a building uptown that was abandoned,
Mm-hmm.
and you took some kids in there one time and scared them or something.
Oh yeah, it was a building that at one time they had a mattress factory in it. That was during wartime, and it was just something more or less for more income for people and this and that, and they made mattresses there. Well, and that shut down, and it was just a vacant building for a while. And so us town kids was always trying to rig up something for like Wednesdays and Saturdays when all the farmers come in and their kids, we'd have something to fool them with, or some darn prank. So we got in that building one time, and then we rigged a lot of the doors so that with wires and fine rope that if you'd open one door, you know, it might close another one over there, you know, and bang, you know. We was telling them there was spooks in there. And there was a back stairway out of that building, and for some reason they had tore that off. The stairway was gone. And we got some kids up there this one day and got telling there were spooks there, and somebody slammed the door and another door slammed over further away, and this one kid, he talked kind of funny anyway, and he said, "Oi, oi, spooks," and he took off on a dead run, and he ran right out of that back door where there was no stairs. And his legs were still going when he went out of there. And he hit the ground, but he wasn't hurt, but he could have broke his neck, you know. He ran right out of the second story building there. Oh, I tell you, we was lucky a lot of times that somebody didn't get hurt bad.
Hmm.
And then we'd hunt pigeons. That was a big thing for us. We'd walk all over the countryside, and wherever farmers, a lot of them wanted to get rid of their pigeons out of their barns. And we'd go out and ask if we could catch pigeons, and we'd catch pigeons, and we all had pigeon pens at home, big pigeon pens, and had a bunch of pigeons, you know.
Well, how would you catch them?
Any way you could. I can remember walking hand over hand down those tracks at the hay forks, you know, would haul hay into the hay mows.
Yeah.
Way down there, you know, and go clear into the cupola that way. And
then grab them or what?
yeah, grab them. And it was, right now I can see where it was mean and cruel, but at the time, we was doing it all the time, never thought nothing of it. But you could wrap their wings around, and we call it locking their wings. And they couldn't fly that way, and we'd just throw them down into hay, and all the while we was catching those that we'd caught, we'd lock the wings and just throw them in a pile there, you know, and the poor things just lay there. They couldn't move their wings. We didn't realize it was, you know, I can see now where it'd be a painful darn thing to have their wings wrapped around like that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything else that you did back then? I remember you telling about you getting in trouble one time with family wasn't too wealthy, and your dad had finally purchased some coal.
Oh yeah, and I and another little neighbor kid threw it down the cistern. You talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cistern lid had a little hole in it, and that load of coal had been briquettes is what they were. It was dumped right by that cistern, and we sat out there and we dropped one in there, and you could hear it go down there, and it had a real funny sounding splash. And we thought that was big stuff, so we sat there most of the day just dropping coal down the cistern. And that didn't go over so good.
When did you get your first bike?
First bike I got was given to me from it would have been Art and Jessie Shuck. Now Jessie, this is my dad's youngest sister, and they lived down by Cloverdale. And we was down there one time for just a family get together for a Sunday dinner, and was out playing in the grove by the back of their house there, and here laid this old bicycle that was broke right in half, just the back wheel and the front wheels there. And I asked him what they was going to do with that, and they said, well, it was just junk, it was no good. And I asked him if I could have it, and so they gave me that bike. And so we hauled it home, and they had Ed Wise had a garage, welding garage here in town, and I took it down there to see if they could weld it together. Well, they did. Les Warwick was the guy who did it. He welded it together. And it was really a high pressure tire one, really a high bike. There was really high wheels on it. And there was a lot of us kids learned to ride that on a hill here in town where there was a tree stump. We'd get on there and get on the bike and then down that hill. And it worked pretty good till later that summer. We was riding down Lover's Lane on the way out to Rush Lake. And I had somebody on the bars, on a crossbar that I was riding. I don't remember who it was, but anyway, we was really kiting along, and they hit a bump, and that darn welding let go, and the bike flew right in half. And talk about rolling. Man, oh man, there we laid.
About how old were you then?
Oh, I suppose I'd say probably around 13, something like that. 12, 13.
Who taught you how to ride bike first?
We taught ourselves. I mean, we just would get on that, down that hill, we'd get on that stump and hop on. And first while we wouldn't get very far down the hill, but every time, it'd get a little farther. So finally we got it mastered. But there was a lot of kids in town that learned on that old bike. We just didn't have, money to buy bikes and stuff with.
I used to
Our
ski down.
my folks had some tough going. I mean, there just was no, and nobody did. I know a lot of people that never owned a car, and until the day they died, I had no families. That was friends of ours. They never owned an automobile, and yet they worked hard. But what little wages it was, it took everything to raise a family with.
Yeah.
You used to. Did you ski down or just sled in the wintertime? Did you do some skiing?
Oh yeah,
Ice
we
skiing?
had one hill here in town. It was by the church is gone now. The Congregational Church used to be. It was on that corner, be by Lagos, that hill. The city used to rope that off, just because there were so many kids that slid. That had. That was one of our big things in the wintertime was everybody had a sled. That they did. And that would be just packed with kids down there every night sliding. And then the city even built an ice skating rink up town just off of Main Street there, and flooded it, for the kids for ice skating. But we had a mess for ice skates. Nobody could ice skate very good. A lot of them was just an old clamp-on skates, and your old shoes, you'd be so weak, you'd get out there and your ankles would turn in, there you was. So that didn't work so good, but everybody tried anyway.
Where did you attend school?
What?
Where did you attend school?
There were no cheating.
You know, cheating the whole time?
Yeah, as long as I went. I quit in the 10th, just about through the 10th year, and that's when I got a job and I went to work. In them days, it was different. I mean, I worked with a lot of people that never went more than the 4th grade. They just, and
So did you quit to get the job to help support the family?
it was somewhat, yeah.
Or was it like an
It was
independence?
just, they just didn't have any money to do anything with, and it was a chance to pick up a little extra money, so you had a little something to buy something with, so I did. And that's when I started working like in the gas stations and the blacksmith shop.
Do you remember who your favorite teacher was? Did you have a favorite teacher?
Yeah, I would say I did. I would say it was a Miss Patterson that she taught the 5th and 6th grades. And at that time in school, one teacher taught two grades. I mean, it was primary, 1st and 2nd, that was 3, and 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th grade. And the 5th and 6th grade, she had had puppets. I think I told you about that. In there, the kids for art would make puppets and then put on puppet shows. And I know all the kids, everybody, that's who they wanted for their teacher was, because you did get to spend a lot of time working with puppets and fun stuff instead of all just schoolwork, And,
Now, is this all in what I remember as being the old high school?
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were there, did they use all of the levels? Was that because when I was there, they had stopped using the upper level and used that for
we used all levels when I was there.
Okay.
And there we, like I said, we did a lot of stuff. It's a wonder some of us didn't get killed, but I can remember we'd go down there in the evenings after it get about dark, and we'd climb up the fire escape. And if you'd get up to the top of the fire escape that went into the top story, if you'd stand on the edge of that, you'd get a hold of the gutter on the roof of the school.
And it was 4 stories tall.
And we'd climb up there and get on top of that schoolhouse and play tag up there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It was it was 4 stories, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
4
then
stories.
this one night, somebody was chasing Bobby Nagel. And all at once he slipped something on his shoe and he went down that roof and his foot just caught against that. There was big wide gutters on around there. And that stopped him. And boy, then we all realized, now this is nothing to be doing. And that was our last time. But like I say, it could have been killed so easy there.
About how old were you then?
And then, there again, I was probably around 12, 13, 14. And we used to crawl up on the gym, the brickwork on the gym. On the corners, there was a little square built out that every other brick was set in an inch deeper. I mean, there's, every other brick was an inch out further, just so that
Right.
you could get a hold of that with your fingers and your toes on there. And we'd climb up that and get on top of the gym. Go right at the side of that brickwork.
I remember doing that myself. as a
You
kid.
do.
Yeah.
You climbed up that too?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Steve, what'd you ever do? What's the matter with you anyway?
Yeah, I remember doing that. as a
Dumb kid?
We climbed up. I never climbed up on top of the high school. Well, that's just stupid. But
Yeah, right now I'd say it was.
oh my goodness, that was a tall school. We'll have to get pictures of that to put in with this.
Where were all of the places that you've lived? How many places have you lived? You were born in Sibley.
Born in Sibley, yeah, and then we moved into that little house that I said across from the park.
In Ocheyedan here.
Yeah, and that's where I had the trouble with the geese. The geese got me down
You better
there
tell
one
that
time.
story.
Well, about all there was to it is these neighbors had geese, and they were mean, and they were big, and I was going to go up to the neighbor kids and play, and hear them geese come, and I started running home, and they got between me and the house, and one of these big ganders hopped right up on me and knocked me down, and I can remember laying there, and he was pecking at me, and I thought if I could just kick him, and I did. I kicked him hard enough, kicked him off, and I got up, made it home, but that darn thing actually knocked me down. But yeah, now I'm losing where we was at there.
How old were you when you moved to that house in Ocheyedan, that first one?
Oh, yeah, that I don't know. That's where I can remember. I know my dad had a Model A car then, or Model T, and that's where I got the scar on this finger. My mom slammed the car door on my finger down there one day. Now I'm like, I can remember that, but I can't have been much more than 3 or 4. Well, then we moved up on Main Street, and what I was saying was that where they had a cream station, bought cream and eggs and milk, and we lived on Main Street.
How long did you live at that place by the creamery?
Oh, golly. I suppose till I don't know, I must have been 12 or 13 years old, I think, when we moved down that house, how do I say where to get there?
You lived until you were about 12 or 13 on the Main Street
On Main
one?
Street, lived right on Main Street,
Okay.
yeah. And then they rented a house down here, right across the street from Nagel's. where it
By
was.
the railroad tracks.
Yeah, I tore it down. Not while I was living there, but after later on.
That's the one where
Then,
Dave Keel built.
Then
that
we bought a little house right next to it, and then it had never had water or sewer or anything in it, and it was getting kind of run down. So somebody owed way a lot of back taxes on it. The owner wouldn't come forth, so I tried to buy it, and you couldn't get a hold of the right people. And then the county finally put it up to bid on it, and just to get some money for taxes back. And I bid $100 on it and got it. But they said I'd have to bid that much in order just to make things legal, And then we tore that down.
Well, no,
And
was
then-
that the house? I think I remember that house. Am I thinking of the right house?
How long did you live in that
Well,
house then
hang
until you
on.
got married?
Hang on.
Just a sec. That one that was torn down. Did you live there until?
That's where I was living with my folks when I and Lois got
Okay,
married.
okay.
I was living in that house.
Okay.
And
But-
then, well, that was it. That's the last that I lived with my folks was there. And that's where my dad died when we was living there yet.
But now that house, okay, where John Talsma lives, and then it was the house where you guys had lived,
That's where the
and
one
then
we
you
bought.
just the very next house up there.
The very next house over, the 2 houses. I bought them both, and I tore them both down.
Okay.
And
Well, I remember one of those
And
houses.
salvaged all the lumber, because we were going to build a new home there. I had them 2 lots in and tore down. Well, in the meantime, this house come up for sale. And my boss, Dan Osterman, owned this. And I got thinking about it, on golly, I wonder if it'd be better to buy that instead of going through all that hassle of building down there, you know. And so that's what we ended up doing. We bought this place, and then I sold all the lumber and sold them lots down there.
What year did you buy this, and how much did you get it for?
I bought this in 71. And yeah, I bought it in 71 for $20,000 in 71.
Wow.
And when did you pay it off?
When did it pay it off? Let's see, we took a 20-year loan on it, but we had it paid off 3 years early. It should have been paid for in 91, and we must have had it paid for in 88, 87 or 88. Maybe it's 4 years early, because we kept adding the payments. You know, if we had a little extra money, we put it on the house. And we did. We ended up paying for it 3 or 4 years before the contract was up.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah. And so we had to sell our little house to help, you know, get the finances made for this, because you had to have a certain amount down. Well, we got that house sold. But then we bought a lot of furniture right here too from Osterman's. Besides the house, we bought a dining room set.
Which we're still using, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that dining room set. That's some chairs now that are sitting upstairs that need cleaning up so bad. And the desk.
rocking chair
Bought
that's
that.
up in the attic.
Yeah. Yeah, we bought several items. I don't remember just what it came to, an extra $3,000 or $4,000 worth of stuff over the price of the house, you know.
But before you ended up in this nice of a place, you had to go through some struggles.
Oh, I should hope. Yeah.
You lived in a boxcar for a while.
Oh yeah, on the railroad we lived right in a regular boxcar. Somewhere I got some pictures of them. I'm gonna have to have you guys see them sometime. I'll try and find them. You won't believe what we lived in.
Yeah.
Well, I think I remember seeing Ronnie and Carol visiting you in one of the boxcars. Does that sound right?
No,
No?
I don't think so.
'Cause I think...
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
You lived in a boxcar, and where did you live all in this boxcar?
Well, after I got married, see, I lived in them all the way from Ocheyedan to Sioux Falls. See, we'd work in Ocheyedan a while, and our crew would move to Sibling, and as long as it's that close, so I didn't live in them. I lived at home. But then when we got like Rock Rapids and Ellsworth and stuff, then we started living in boxcars. Well, when I got married, it wasn't long, and we moved. We was working close to home here when I first got married, and so I and Lois lived for a little while right across from the schoolhouse. Ed Barley owned that house, the one right north across from the school ground. And a fellow really helped us out there, old Ed Barley. He knew we had tough going and didn't have a lot, and when our crew moved out to go to Larchwood, I went down, I wanted to pay him the rent we owed him, and he wouldn't take it. He said that just to use that as a wedding gift. And boy, did that ever save us, you know, because we was really down to nothing. Had a real strange thing happen for our wedding. I was working on the railroad, and we got paid every 2 weeks. And boy, it was just taking more money for everything, you know, things you didn't think about, getting stuff ready for the wedding. And I told the guys on the job, I said, boy, I need about 2 checks this time. And come payday, here come my check, and my check was exactly twice the amount it was supposed to be. And I thought, oh no, they made a mistake on my check and I need the money real bad. So I went down, I told my foreman about it. I said, what am I going to do? I said, this check isn't right. I said, it's double my amount that my check's supposed to be. And I told him, I said, but I need my half. I said, I can't just, send that back and wait. Well, he said, tell you what, he said, why don't you go ahead and cash it, but put half of it away, because they'll probably catch up with it pretty soon. They'll be calling for it, and then you'll have it to send in. So, okay, I'll do that. And how it turned out, see, I was working for this maintenance crew, and we was working in Sibley at that time, and Ted Ruschi on the Sibley crew went on his 2 weeks vacation. So I supposedly was going to take his place on the Sibley crew, but we was all working in one bunch. All of us was working together. So the Sibley foreman was turning in my time, and so was the maintenance foreman. Now how that could possibly go through the office with two different guys turning my time in, and doubling it up, I could see maybe getting two different checks, a check from the maintenance crew and one from Sibley, but it all came just a double amount of check.
Well, how did it all end up then?
Well, it's one of those things when you don't have money and you got something laying around and you need it, you're going to use it. So little by little we started nibbling into that, just hoping that maybe by the time they call for it, we'll be able to have it to pay back. Well, I never did hear from them. I've always felt a little guilty about it. They did go broke.
I suppose if they paid all our guys twice as much as they were supposed
But
to.
isn't that something, how I'd always said, boy, I need two checks, and there it came, double the amount. But then the first time I and your mother moved from the house, let's see, which place was it we moved from? I know all our possessions, we moved in one trip in the back seat of a 36 Ford car. Everything we owned. And that was it.
What was the first car you owned?
One trip. It was an old Model A. And, I had a lot of fun with that thing. But
You said you dressed it up a lot.
yeah, I did. At one time, I'd made fender skirts on it, and everything. Really had it slicked up. And had that old engine on there tuned so that I could pull off 3 of the plug wires. It was just a 4-cylinder car. And I bet a lot of guys already that I could pull off 3 plug wires and still start that car and go with it on just one cylinder. And I could, if it wasn't on a hill. I couldn't make a hill with it, but on a straightaway we could pull her.
Except for when you had a leak in your radiator.
Oh, yeah. I think I told you guys about that, and somebody told me to put soap in the radiator, that would plug the leak. So went uptown there and I filled her up with the water again. It leaking bad and getting hot. I got a bar of ivory soap, and I sliced about half of that big bar of ivory soap into the radiator. And Everett Mickelson was with me. We was going to take it out and get that water circulating, trying to get that leak plugged. And we got just down there by Hormel's, by their grove, going out of town, and that soap had plugged up. The radiator couldn't even circulate, and it got hot, and pretty soon it blowed the cap off the radiator, and big bubbles. I tell you, Lawrence Welk thought they could make bubbles, but he didn't have a chance for what we was making going down the road. Great, the prettiest bubbles you ever seen going out through that grove. I could see it as though it happened yesterday.
So you had to drive all the way back into town with bubbles coming out?
What's that?
You drove back into town with the bubbles?
Yeah, heck yes. And I was just telling your mother yesterday on her way, she's coming home from Worthington, and I don't know what made me think of it. But I told her, I said, once, I said one night we came to Worthington, I said, a bunch of us, I took my old Model A and we went up to Worthington to show. And we got out of the show to come home and had a flat tire. And there was no stations open, and no place to get it fixed. We didn't have no spare. So I drove that old car clear home from Worthington on gravel roads on the rim. Clear from Worthington.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about a clatter down
That
the
would be
road.
a long, Did it ruin your rim?
Oh yeah, the rim was shot. I pulled the tire off the rim and just run on the bare rim so I wouldn't, completely ruin the tire. But the old rim was just all flattened out.
Drove home on the rim.
And
20 miles or so.
I didn't have enough money to buy alcohol at that time. Instead of permanent antifreeze, not too many people could afford permanent antifreeze, and a lot of people put alcohol in, and the stations handle that, barrels of alcohol. And I got to where I couldn't even afford alcohol in the radiator leaking like that, so I put kerosene. I started putting kerosene in the radiator. Well, it would work for a while, but kerosene doesn't have the cooling qualities, the water and that does. But I could get around that way. But that's what I run in there in the wintertime. It's one winter anyway. And I'd get used oil from the stations to put in it. And get low on oil, I'd just stop up and ask them where their used oil was and go dump some in again. And finally I was going to overhaul it. I decided this one spring, so I shut her down and I pulled the pan off it, and the darn old pan was just full of old gaskets and chunks of rubber and that that had come out of that old used oil stuff. And then I was going to Round Lake. We used to go up there a lot, Round Lake, and that darn radiator leaked, so we could get about halfway to Round Lake. But there was a schoolhouse there, and it had a well, the country school. It had a well out there in the yard. And so we knew we could get that far, then I'd pull into that schoolyard and drive out there, and I'd drive right up to the well, and we'd pull a pump up out the well and set the spout down in the radiator and pump her full. Set the pump back in, go the rest of the way. Oh man, I tell you, we had some times.
When you put like reflectors or something on, did you say that you had drilled and you made a mistake one time when you were drilling?
Oh yeah, I was going to put a set of what they call truck cluster lights on the back of the trunk. That was on the 37 Ford I had.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to put them on the trunk. Some people started doing that, just extra fancy, see extra set of lights. I started drilling through that trunk lid with a 1/4-inch bit. And it kept going and going and drilling tough. And I thought, golly, that sure ain't that thick of stuff in there. Pretty soon, it drilled a hole right through the trunk and through my spare tire. We gotta quit talking about all these dumb things I do. I did a few smart things in my life too. A couple.
What's something that you did smart? Oh, let me think.
Yeah, let's think about that. Oh boy.
Well, how'd you meet Mom?
I was working on the railroad, and our maintenance crew was working out of Ellsworth then, and that's where I was living there in the bunk car there. Well, I'd eat supper uptown in a cafe in Ellsworth, and I was sitting in the cafe there one night, and some other girls had been in there, and they had pinball machines in there, and they was playing them, and your mother walked in, and pretty soon she walked over and was playing that pinball machine, and I kind of looked over, and I thought, boy, that don't look too bad.
The pinball machine?
Yeah. And she had another girlfriend that lived with her, and she was a nice girl too, and I really got acquainted with her first. And I took her out a couple times, and then this one night, I don't remember just how it happened, but her and your mother, they was both there, but I ended up taking your mother home. And then that was what started it. It wasn't long, then we decided to tie the knot.
What month and year did you meet?
Did you meet?
Uh-huh.
I tell you, we're getting into something here I think we better not talk about.
Well, we might as well. You've been together for
Well, let's
44
see.
years.
Yeah. It was in the first part of May,
And when did who propose?
and we got married the 26th of June.
Of the same year.
So I can't say too much to Bonnie.
May, June?
Yeah.
I thought it was 3 months that you were together.
No.
Wasn't even 3 months.
No.
So who proposed?
I did.
And
Except
what'd you
doesn't Mom
say?
say she does?
Eh?
Didn't Mom say she proposed?
No.
What'd you say? Did you get a ring, and did you wear special clothes, take her to a special place?
I don't know. I and Mom and we'd gone over to I think Arnold's Park, or did we go swimming or something with Floyd and Bonnie? And we was talking in the back seat there, and we was talking about different things, and I finally said, "Hey, we ought to just get married or something like that, you know." And, almost a little bit jokingly to start with, but before we got done, it ended up making it serious, and I said, "No, let's do get married." And she said, "Yeah, she would." So then the first time I met her dad, I had to go out and ask him if it would be all right if I married his daughter. And I'd heard such mean stories about him that, oh boy, you know. But I had a lot of guts at them days too. I wasn't afraid to do anything.
So what was it like when you first met him?
Wasn't too bad. I mean, we talked about it, and I told him, I said, I just kind of wanted to talk to you about, I'd like to marry Lois. And what he said to me was, he said, well, if you think you can support her and take care of her, he said, well, I see nothing wrong with it, which surprised me, you know. Because everybody had said, you know, how tough he was and how mean that he could get. So
how long after you met her did you get engaged?
Well, didn't you get engaged before you met?
No, not really. Let's see, it was right after that I proposed to her then, and that's when I was working on the railroad, and as luck would have it, the railroad in them days had what they called their watchmen. They'd come through on a little hand car, and they sold special railroad watches and all kinds of jewelry and stuff, you know, too, on the side along with it. And he also was the person that inspected all the railroad foreman's watches, and boy, watches had to be right on. And so the watchman was coming through that day, and I found out about it. And we was working just west of town here a little ways when he come up on his motor car and inspecting the watches and stuff. And I went over and talked to him. I said, "Do you have engagement rings and wedding rings and stuff?" He said, "I sure do." So I ended up buying her rings off of the railroad, which they would withhold that out of my checks, you know, till it's paid for. So that was how I got her rings.
Those are the ones that she
right,
still has.
Buying them right from the
It's
railroad.
the same ones that she still.
Mhm.
Do you have
So-
anything engraved on them?
Hmm?
Anything engraved on them?
No.
No?
No. But I was lucky to even be able to get, if it wouldn't have been for that, I wouldn't have had the money to have got rings anywhere, you know, then. We just didn't have money in them days much. But,
So what's the date you got married? The year and the date?
the 26th of June
26th of June.
in '52. And
I didn't hear that.
Okay.
I see what you.
You can say stuff. You can say stuff.
One, two, three.
Gorgeous.
yeah, we sure like it.
One, two, three. You teach her how to count. One, two, three, four. If we get too old to take care of this, you go to my bank account and you take enough out to hire service master and pour right through to the floor in the bedroom, through the bedrooms. You
The
wouldn't
paper
believe
right
it.
around the front.
Go on here pretty quick before I get too tired too.
It sure be nice if you get that air fixed in your car.
And,
Yes, it would.
yeah, what do you have?
Bank closed at 3. Have they always closed at 3 or they just start that?
No, they always have. They close at 3 and then, yeah, if you have to sign papers, you have to get there always.
Well, I told them I'd be there
That's why
about.
we always said banker's hours, 9.
No, I didn't even sign. You just had him sign.
Ashley Lynette.
Here.
Yeah, we the boys should have.
I'm taping. I don't need that on the tape. Jeez.
Just make them all think the woo 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 woo.
You got a fire truck?
Fire truck say.
The one that ran the grandpa bought her. Woo.
Mom, I'm gonna lay her. Here. You want me to get the kitties? Where'd they go? Good night.
Danny, how you
Where are you?
Come here. Where's they go down there and make big feet? You, but you go.
You.
I'm sure my friends. No, I mean real friends.
What is that?
Looking down Main Street of Ocheyedan now. This is where the creamery was. That it would be my grandmother and grandpa had, and they lived in the back of this building.